Okay, so today we are covering Project Management Light. So this is project management for purchasing. Pretty reduced from the PMBOK. Perform project management activities. Project management, supply management, and project management are very closely related. Supply management professionals will manage many small projects to implement improvements to the supply chain. Project management professionals will almost always need supply chain management input and help to complete their larger projects. So here's the project life cycle according to the PMBOK. Each project phase ends with a deliverable. So you got the initiation phase, plan, execute, monitor and control, and close. So here's the deliverable at the end of each phase. There's description and some of the activities that take place. So you want a project charter done and scope at the end of initiation. Then the planning, you got quite a bit of stuff. Scope, staffing, budget, quality control, supply management plan, etc. Executing phase, you got a bunch of stuff too. Monitoring control, a few things. And then close out stage, just to close out, close contract and final product service result. And not every project is going to have a closed contract as its deliverable. So here's the project initiation phase. Supplier diversity programs need executive support from the top of the organization. And then you want to do a scope analysis, description of the work to be accomplished in the project and the areas the project will not cover. So you want to define the problem. You want to project selection methods. Are you going to use NPV, IRR, or some other selection method? You want to make a project charter, which formally authorizes the project and designs the project, designates the project manager and team, commits resources. So project charter is issued by the project sponsor, who's usually somebody higher up the chain. This is what a project charter can look like. This one's by PACCAR Six Sigma. But there's a lot of templates out on the internet. Project planning. These processes define the project objectives in the plan, the course required to, and plan the course required to obtain this project scope and objectives. So project scope development. What's the work that needs to be done on the project? Who are the team members? And what are the steps of the project? What are the approaches to accomplish the objectives? And what are the risks? So project teams and roles and responsibilities. You got a responsibility assignment matrix, a RAM. Most people will call it a RASIC, responsible. RAM typically assigns project team members to specific sections of the work breakdown structure. Responsible, accountable, informed, consulted. I'm not sure what the S stands for. Budget development, cost estimate that is broken down by categories in the work breakdown structure. Not all projects have a budget. Here's a RASIC list. Responsible, approved, support, informed, and consulted. So, you know, what's each person going to be? This is also known as a RAM matrix. Here's a work breakdown structure, project name. You know, this is group 1. Then you got task 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2.1, 2.3, 2.3-1, 2.3-2. It's a very formal way of breaking down what needs to happen. Kepner-Trigo, rational process analysis. defined the systematic procedure developed to apply critical thinking for the purpose of solving problems. So what's the situation? What's the problem, decision, and potential problem opportunity? List threats, separate and clarify concerns, consider serious urgency, determine analysis needed, and determine help needed. So this is an article on the Kepner-Trigo. Remember who this is by. If we got, no, I guess it's by the Kepner-Trigo. And 2013 to 14. So that kind of explain it. And this is another article. It's actually a chapter from a book on the new rational manager. Talks about Kepner-Trigo analysis. Develop this project schedule, breaking down the work into a series of tasks, identify the dependencies with other tasks, developing a schedule plan to estimate how long each task will take, find the sequence, identify who will be performing each task, add in checkpoints, or what most people will call a milestone. Measurable tasks are used to compare execution with the proposed plan. And then you want to determine what the critical path is. So the set of tasks that cannot be delayed without delaying the entire project. So this leads to something called the critical path method. The shortest necessary path of planned activities to the end of the project, and the earliest and latest that each activity can start and finish without making the project longer. That's the critical path method. Resource loading, planning resources on the project, and governance, define the management and control of the project. Project management tools, Gantt chart, critical path method, we just covered a little bit. And the Pert, program evaluation and review technique. So here's the Gantt chart. You guys have seen that. Here's today's date. And solid means it's done. The white means it's not done yet. And these tasks are listed in order, the date that they're going to start and finish. A lot of people use these. These are pretty handy. CPM chart's more complicated. Earliest start and finish, 11:25. Latest start and finish, 26:40. So you got to get those in there. Otherwise, you're going to delay the project. Duration, 5:15. Here's the float, means you got 15 days to play with. And the drag is the delay amount. Critical path is through the middle here. Like I say, this is more for large programs or projects that an actual project manager would use. You rarely is going to use something this complicated in purchasing. Pert, you may use this. This is a little bit simpler. Rectangles and nodes represent events. These all represent events. Directional arrows represent, this task has to happen before this task. And diverging arrows indicate possible concurrent tasks. So 7 and 6 can be done concurrently. Dotted lines indicate dependent tasks that do not require resources or time to complete. So this kind of, when you're doing this, or when you're doing this, you automatically kind of get to here. Numbers between the nodes indicate estimated time to complete. So 5 days or 5 hours, whatever you want to call it. Then you got dummy activities and all kinds of things. But this one you may see more in purchasing. Risk analysis uses various techniques such as earned value management, schedule analysis, and budget analysis to ID and control risks. So detailed analysis to understand possible project failures, meet with stakeholders to identify risks, and scenario analysis. So here's an example of a risk matrix. What's the risk? Probability of occurring, severity if it occurs, consequences, and the rank. Purchasing usually is not going to see something like a earned value management. That's going to be a project manager making submarines or something. Project execution involves executing solicitation, source selection, ensuring the proper communication flow on the team. You can have some kind of change management process, solicitation process, or what we would call a bid process, sending out the RFP proposal. Involves obtaining bids and proposals, conduct a pre-proposal conference if necessary, request suppliers' responses, should all be in the offering document. Source selection involves receiving proposals, applying the evaluation criteria, which you want to have the evaluation criteria done before you send out the RFP. Know how you're going to grade it before you start looking at the answers. And apply evaluation criteria to the proposal and evaluate based on the evaluation criteria. That's how you remain unbiased. Have that evaluation criteria done ahead of seeing any of the supplier proposals. And then project monitoring and control. Monitor project effort to identify variances from plans so corrective actions can be implemented. Some of the performance tools are earned value management. And it's calculated by multiplying the budgeted cost of each task by the estimated percentage completion. You can also look at schedule analysis and budget analysis. And again, that's really for only complicated, large projects. Change control. Changes the project baseline, SOWs and T's and C's. How are you going to control those? Risk monitoring, conducting risk management activities, and performance management reporting. Project constraints and milestone reviews. Here's the earned value graph. So between here, which is the budgeted cost of the work scheduled, and here, which is the budgeted cost of the work performed, this is the schedule variance. And then the difference between the actual cost of the work performed and the budgeted cost of the work performed is called the cost variance. Then you've got project closure. Involves formally closing the project's activities related to the contract and documenting and contract files to reflect project results. So best practices and lessons learned should be entered into some kind of database. And then you need a post-project audit of an independent group, usually internal audit. They'll audit the larger projects to see that you conform to methods and procedures and budgets. Then you got contract closeout, which sometimes that applies, sometimes it doesn't. And then here's the PMBOK and what they say about it. You got first step is planned purchases and acquisitions. Second step is planned contracting. Third step is request seller responses, which is the RFPs. And fourth step is select the sellers. And then contract administration and contract closure. All right, consider the following steps in the project management process: closing, execution, initiation, planning, and monitoring control. It's all 5 of them. Which of the following options describes the appropriate sequence from first to last? So we're going from first to last. And when you're looking at a question like this, pretty sure closing is going to be on the end. So you'll go look down here, and they all end with closing, so that's no help. So then initiation should be the first. So we can get rid of A and B. Then we just need to determine what's the difference between C and D. So they both have 4. So one of them has execution as the third step, and one of them has monitoring and control as the third step, and then execution. So I think it's probably got to be C. Yep, C it is. All right, one more here. Which of the following project management tools will show what the steps to the project are and how much of the project has been completed so far? So you're just showing 2 things, so it's a pretty simple chart. I think they're looking for the simplest method, which is going to be the Gantt chart. Yeah, Gantt chart. All right. There's some questions out there. Pull them up and start working on them. C1. How many we got? Well, we got 17, so we'll start working through them. All right, let's go look at some answers here. C1. Answer to number 1 is delta. 2 is Bravo. 3 is delta. And 4 is delta. 5 is Charlie. 6 is Charlie. 7 is also Charlie. 8 is Alpha. 9 is Delta. 10 is also Delta. 11 is Charlie. 12 is also Charlie. 13 is Alpha. 14 is Bravo. 15 is Delta. 16 is Bravo. And 17 is Delta. All right, let's go back and finish up. I forgot we got to do the summary. Critical path is the sequence of tasks that determines the minimum amount of time needed to complete the project. A Gantt chart is a type of chart that illustrates tasks as horizontal bars and keeps track of the status of the task. And project charters display the essentials of a project, such as objectives, assumptions, stakeholders, and risks. The RAM, or the RASIC, documents the role of each member of the team, such as responsible, informed, accountable, etc. And the risk registry tracks identified project risks and assigns a likelihood and severity of occurrence to each risk. Scope is the compilation of objectives that the project will address to meet the stakeholders' requirements. That's our summary. Here's some other notes on project management for the more advanced. Make them a little larger. Here's some more stuff on Kepner-Trigo. For breakdown structures. Here's some more work breakdown structures. Schedule and critical path. Yeah. It's the Pert chart. And then a comparison between Pert and critical path. And there's some risk management. Risk probability and impact matrix. It's kind of interesting. More on risk management terms. Project monitoring control. What is earned value management? Always a big question. Similar to the chart that I was showing you. 2 keys. And here's some questions for earned value management. You may see some of that on the test. That'd be maybe not. If they are on there, probably pretty simple questions. I don't think they're going to make you do a lot of math. And there you have it. All right. Tomorrow we will start in with D1.